Hey friends, welcome back to another video. Very quickly, fixed my microphone, had a few problems with it, so I fixed the filter up anyway. So it's very exciting. It's not cutting in and out like it was just really bad. Anyway, sorry about that guys. Hopefully you guys are stuck through. Anyway, this lesson is going to be for Trophy Hunter. It's just very basic, so we're going to talk about a couple of things in the openings. And he's someone who is at 104 ELO and just struggling to win a game. So we're going to try and get him up to about 300 to 500. Just get a few ideas. So anyway, just trying to control the center. You want to control the center to begin with. The reason why you move these pawns, so you can move the bishops out and control the dark squares. So perfectly fine. White attacks the pawn. This is what you call it developing with a tempi, which means that if your pawn's being attacked, you should respond to that. I like the idea that you responded, but I don't like the pawn. It would have been better if you played c6. So the reason behind this is you've got light square weaknesses now. So these squares are weak. So remember, when you move a pawn, every time a pawn goes forward, it can't go back. And then remember too, so at the moment you're controlling all these squares, but once the pawn moves, you're not controlling these squares anymore and becomes a weakness in the future on your side of the board. So always think about, in the future when you move pawns, you're going to create future weaknesses, okay? So yeah, so developing the knight would have been the best move. Also, it gets very awkward. Look at where this knight has to go. Even here, eventually if white ever plays this pawn move, you could potentially lose a knight for a bishop, but you're actually potentially having two pawns on the same, which is called double pawns, which will hurt you later in the game, so near the end game. Okay, good that you developed bishop. The problem is, what I want you to think of when you develop a piece, I want you to control more squares. Also think about when you move a piece, trying to move it once in the opening. The problem is white can just move here and your bishop has to move. Okay, this is just highlighting the fact that your light squares are actually in trouble. So white castles, knight moves, perfect. Okay, so moving here. So what I thought you did was right. You maybe tried to castle with the rook and it was just a mouselet. Anyway, even if it's not, you make sure you always castle kingside and always use the king to castle when you're playing this. So always move like this. And then the problem is when you can't castle, it's usually because you've either moved your king or your rook that you're trying to move, or the opponent's piece is actually covering the two squares that you're trying to cover. So you can't actually castle into check. Okay, so you'd be casting in the check, and that's an illegal move. Okay, so that's what happened. Always make sure too, like this is well defended obviously with the knight, but now the rooks are classified as major pieces. The bishop and knights are classified as minor pieces. So you don't want to lose a major piece for a minor piece, okay? So rooks are worth 5 points, bishops are worth 3, knights are worth 3, queens are worth 9, pawns are worth 1, just for rule of thumb, okay? Okay, so this was actually one of your best moves because if takes, now because the pawn has moved, this is actually a pin, and then if you ever trade and move the pawn up, this knight has the feeling that it's going to have to move, and then white's going to potentially lose an exchange. Okay, so apart from that, there's been a couple of good moves there, like with the knight move with c6, and also this knight move was pretty good. Anyway, let's swap over, and I'll give you an idea. So think of this as the king's bed, right? The rook is the pillow. This is the blanket. Okay, you don't want to disrupt the bed. You don't want to wake up the king. Okay, so this is very safe. Remember, as soon as you start moving the pawn, dark squares get weak. Nasty things start to happen. Always make sure, always question yourself a lot when you're moving these 3 pawns. Or these 6 pawns. I don't want you to move these pawns unless they're absolutely necessary. You can move this pawn to annoy the bishop. I won't accept this. I might accept this for now, but really try to avoid moving the pawns because they become future weaknesses on your side of the board. Okay. Also, the fact is, if you look at white developing pieces straight away, this is what I want you to start doing. And what I started doing as well, when I first started playing, bishop, then castles. And this was just known as the Italian opening, and it was pretty basic. There's another one, so you can either do the knight, bishop, and then castle. So bishop, and then castle. And that's just castling as quick as possible. So that's actually a principle. Castle as quick as possible. If you're not happy with that and you want another one, knights before bishop. So get your knights out, then bishop, then pawn out, then bishop again, okay? Knights before bishops, okay? And you want to try and control the center of the board. Try and have your pieces towards the center. Controlling as many pieces, or as many as the board, like how many squares you control is better. So just trying to control the more squares you can is better you'll become. Anyway, we'll keep it like that. So that was the major flaws that I've seen you do, is just not trying to get your pieces out quick enough. Remember the beginning, the opening is just the race. So we're just focusing on the opening. Once you start getting used to developing faster, so developing your knights out faster, this is what's called developing. Once you start doing that and castling quick and then getting more into the middle game, so the middle game is after you castle. So once you survive and get to the middle game, we'll start talking about the middle game and what you should be doing there, and then we'll delve into that. So once you've gained a few ELO, I will actually next week I'll try and post another video. So try and get a few more games under your belt, and then we can actually highlight and see what other errors you're doing, and then go from there. And then hopefully you've picked up from 100 ELO and gone to at least 200 ELO. Okay, so after you've had a few games, we'll start the second video. Anyway guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'll catch you next video. Bye guys.